Good morning. I don't know if I can come closer to you. I don't know if I can expand the video once we're going. So I wanted to drop in here and just do a little tiny training for you. Something I've been talking about this all week in the Ditch the Wagon challenge. Sorry, I thought something was going to fall. Ditch the Wagon challenge, right? So I wanted to provide this, not the challenge, not the full training, because there's a lot of changes in there to do, a lot of mindset shifts, a lot of information, but all really, really relevant to what everybody is struggling with. So I want to just touch base on it here in the tribe group, just to tell you about the key mindset shifts you need to make to get past the negative thinking and that default where you go back to the same pattern all the time. Like, you need to break that default, one mindset shift or tweak at a time, right? So it's definitely doable once you've got awareness around what is stopping you, right? And we do go back to the same default pattern when we hit a roadblock, when we hit resistance, when we realize it's really hard to do, right? So we find it, it's uncomfortable. That's why we go back to the old way, even though the old way is uncomfortable, right? Hard is hard. Which hard do you want to choose? So that's what it comes down to. So I wanted to quickly, in the challenge, that was 5 days, and we talked about a lot, but each day was a different mindset shift. So I talked about some points about those mindset shifts every day. And there, you can join the challenge anytime. For members, it was only $7 to join, right? And you can go through that. Every day is a daily training. I go live every day, nearly every day. Just to recap on the points, there's an ebook which you get, which has those points that we talk about on each day. There's the recipe book, there's a weight loss guide, but it's not about the weight loss, and that's the key here. It's actually about your mindset, because if you don't change the way you're thinking, nothing will change, right? And it does seem big and daunting and scary, but when we break it down into little bits that makes sense to you, that you can do every day, and that when you go through this, especially if you're going to go through the training, it's phenomenal. You'll go, oh my God, I get it, right? It will just make sense to you. And that's what I want to help you with, is to move away from that diet and start listening to yourself, start listening to your instincts, question stuff, stop following bullshit from years ago. When it comes to diet thinking, we're following rules and food rules and making it so difficult that of course we're going to give up. Of course we're going to fail, because it's ridiculous, right? So we want to move away from all of that and make it so simple that anyone can do it and you will not feel bad about any of it, right? It'll all make sense to you, and that is key. So if mindset is everything, right? That's our first mindset shift for the week that we talked about. Like I said, I'm not going to go through the challenge because there's so much content in each day that we talked about, but I'm just going to go through the top key little things, right? So if mindset is everything, then there's no such thing as perfect. We're not aiming for 100%, right? Because that's bullshit. We can't possibly keep up that energy and that motivation and that effort 110% of a whole period of time, whatever you choose, whether it be 6 weeks, 8 weeks, whatever, right? So we move away from that short fix mentality, which is really, really important, because everything that we do seems to fit into a short period of time. And even though I sell something that may be a short period of time, that's only so we can see a light at the end of the tunnel, because busy women can't commit to ridiculous long periods of time. But if you can see 4 weeks or see ahead 6 weeks, you have at least more commitment, I suppose, or at least more awareness that I can get through this. It's only this long, right? We're going to try and make some changes in this time. The other thing to note about that, which is probably even more important, is so many feel like they're going to fail because they're not fitting it in. 6 weeks is going to be up and I haven't lost my 4 kilo or I haven't lost my 10 kilo, right? That's not the goal. The goal is to learn, in my case, in what I'm teaching, learn the principles so you can repeat it, right? You're not meant to fit into a 4-week box or a 6-week box. You've had years of this learnings that you've had that you've got to unlearn, And it's not going to happen. I mean, clients do lose 4 kilos in 4 weeks, and they can lose more if they put in more effort. But that's the key, right? How much effort, how much time, how much energy have you got, right? When we were younger, we had more focus, we had more energy, we were only looking after ourselves. Of course, we could do things at 110%. So you've got to realize, and even when I've coached clients in the past, I never ask them to give up anything, right? But if they're going to keep going out partying or drinking and all that sort of stuff, sure, you can do that. I'm not telling you can't do that, but it's just going to take you longer, right? So, it's just going to take longer if you're not going to put in place the actions that you need to put in place. And again, it's got to be flexible. It's got to fit your life. You want to live happy. You don't want to be starving yourself, going without, worrying about what to eat all the time. So one of the other important mindset shifts is there's no right or wrong, right? I've had clients that have asked me, and I've been doing this for 30 years, right? So I've seen it all, I've heard it all. They'll ask me which fruit they can have. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you have a banana or an apple or an orange, just eat fruit. Right? So it's taking that right down to that. They kind of needed help right down to that. What will I eat? What is the right way to eat? Well, there isn't a right way, right? There isn't a wrong way. It's what does your body want? What do you feel like eating? That's the key. So follow your instincts. I feel like a banana. Well, a banana's awesome. I feel like an apple. An apple's great. Whatever. But they were so consumed and confused about what to eat, that they wanted someone to tell them what they could eat, right down to what type of fruit. Now, I'm not that kind of coach. I'm not a dietitian. I don't go there. I want you to listen to your instincts. I want you to use common sense. And I want you to enjoy it. Like I've met lots of women that have gone to dietitians and they couldn't stick to that because they were having rice milk and they were having starving pretty much. It's so there's all these extremes, right? And there's all merits to good things. There's all merits to good diets. But if you don't want to live on a diet, and that's the thing with the challenge that we talked about, Ditch the Wagon challenge, it was the idea that you weren't going on something. You're not going on a wagon. You're not getting on something so you have to get off it. You are actually tweaking your everyday life so that you can eat normal. And what is normal to you? And that's something that comes up quite a bit too, is that women are not sure what to eat, what's normal for them anymore. So they're not enjoying food. And if you're not enjoying food, I don't know what the point is. Like, you've got to have energy. You've got to fuel your body correctly to run your brain, your heart, your lungs. Everything's got to be, working properly. You want to be happy. You want to sleep well. You want to be your best version of you, right? And that won't come on a diet that you have to get on and get off. It's just not going to work. But also it does your head in. Like, I can tell you, there's many women I've met that their heads are messed up because they're so confused about what to do. And they do want someone else to tell them. They don't want to take responsibility for their own self. They want someone to fix it for them, someone to tell them what to do. A diet will fix something, right? Apparently. So that's why they're looking for that. They're looking for a diet, someone to fix their problem, rather than them taking responsibility and choosing, better choices for themselves, maybe, right? So when we're talking about mindset, it's also around, the good vibe thing. We want a good approach, a sustainable approach. We don't want negativity, right? So this is why it is mindset. And that's where that default comes in. When you come up to, maybe you're 4 weeks into looking after yourself and it's getting hard and it's too difficult to stay motivated, and, you're finding excuses. That's resistance and that's sabotage, right? So it's like it's getting too hard, so we tweak. We don't give up, we tweak, right? You just tweak and make it simpler. If you've got so much on that you physically can't look after yourself properly, I mean, that's sad anyway, isn't it? If we really get to that point where we're not looking after ourselves, not even doing the basics, which a lot of women are not even doing the basics, right? So let's take you back to basic and just do the basics when you're really swamped. Have a couple of non-negotiables that you do every day that will take care of you, even when you're in chaos, stress, sadness, whatever's going on in your world. You'll always have a couple of go-tos. Yeah, that's one of the teachings that I have in my general transformation programs as well, is that we plan your day, but if it gets shit, we don't quit, we just tweak and we just go back to basics, bare bones. Yeah, so that's key. So that was mindset is everything. We talked about the all or nothing approach, which is a really big day. There was a little bit of training in that. We talked about why diets didn't work, and being not sustainable, needing to get on and off, and doesn't address the mindset. That's the thing with diets. Often the click and play ones that you can download and try and follow and do their workouts and all that, doesn't have that accountability in the way that it's personalized or it's personal for your situation, doesn't have the mindset part to it in most cases, and it can't support you on the tough days, right? When you're having a tough day, you can't just message them and go, I'm stuffed. Like, you can if you're in a forum, and it's all good to do that with strangers, but it's not the same, right? It's not the same as having someone in your corner that understands where you're at, understands you, and helps you through it, right? Trusting your instincts, touched on that. So there was a day we talked about that, like how we've forgotten how to eat normal. We don't want guilt or shame. So being aware of sabotage patterns, and choosing food based on love, not fear of weight gain or fear of failure, right? So not following a diet and following food rules because someone told you, 5 years ago you can't have a banana. Because that's a carb, right? I've met women that have said that, and I'm like, whoa, when was that? 5 years ago? Friggin' eat a banana, you're allowed to have it, right? And this is the other thing about trusting your instincts. You are the boss. If the buck stops with you, you take responsibility, not the friggin' diet, not what someone tells you. You take responsibility for you. You are the boss. You give yourself permission to be happy, to eat what you want. And I'm not talking about polishing off a whole cake. We're talking about choosing things that are feeling good for you. Your body already knows what feels good, so choose things that feel good for you and that make sense for you, right? And that fit you. Don't just follow shit because you think you've got to follow a diet, right? And somebody made that diet up. People make up shit, right? It's made up shit, right? You don't have to make up fruit and veg. You don't have to make up fresh food, right? You don't have to make anything up about that. You just eat it, buy it and eat it. It's not hard. So I want you to be aware of that somebody's made that up to sell a diet. There's lots of shakes, there's lots of things you can do. And like I said, they all have good merits. Keto has good merits, paleo has good merits. Mediterranean diet's probably the best and more normal diet you could go on, where it's just fresh fruit and veg and meat and dairy and all the good things, right? So you need that's another talk altogether as to what you need to eat. But if you get the easy have a look at the recipe packs, have a look at the especially in the tribe, you've got them in the units here. Have a look at the easy weight loss guide. It's got some guidelines, good fats, proteins, carbs. It's not that difficult to remember, and that's why you don't need a diet, right? You need to listen to you. We talked about the all or nothing, and one of those mindset, like I said, that was a big, if you call it a module or a big day, a big mindset shift, right? So that's an old way of thinking where maybe we think strict is better, and I think one of the girls here hit the nail on the head. It's hard to make it simple, or hard to let it be easy, because you're just so conditioned to think that it's got to be strict and it's got to be hard or it won't work, and it's got to, and you've only got 6 weeks. So no wonder it's difficult and you feel like a failure and you've got to give up and you're going to make excuses because it's too hard, right? So you do not want that. You do not want that, right? So that's that diet thinking. But then we blame ourselves, and it's not your fault. We blame ourselves because we think that that's our fault. We didn't stick to it. It was too crazy, and maybe it didn't take into the account that you're doing night shift. You're juggling family, you're stressed out of your brain, you're, you know, a lot of these things are not suited for everybody, right? Yeah, so I'm just having a look here and making, you know, if you're wondering why you're making excuses, it's because it's all or nothing. You've got that mindset that it's got to work this way or it won't work. So we need that open approach, that more flexible approach, so that you don't feel like that. And if you've been working with me for a little while, even in the more of a VIP style, you'll have already come to that realization that there is another way. And once you let go of that stuff and let go of all the rules that you've created or followed over the years, you will start feeling calmer, and you won't have that desire to fit it all in. It will dissipate. You won't have the same thoughts about that, right? So it does change if you allow it. You are allowed to change. It changes, right? And the last one was, so all or nothing. What else did we talk about? We talked about, I'm just having a look here. We talked about why diets didn't work, sabotage patterns, all or nothing, mindset, trusting our instinct. I think that was it. There's 5 key mindset shifts. And like I said, each day there was at least 6 things that we talked about within that section. So it's quite in depth, especially when we're talking about sabotage, because that also can look like waiting for motivation, waiting for the perfect time, procrastinating. And the interesting thing about, so there's lots of ways we sabotage, right? And that's that default mechanism where our brain just gets scared. It's scared of change. It's there to protect you from being uncomfortable, right? So that's where the guilt and the shame comes into it. They're just patterns. And once you're aware of those patterns, and you'll see them come up time and time and time again, at the point where you're ready to give up, at the point where you feel resistance, at the point where you're feeling that this is hard, this is not working, they're just sabotage patterns. If you're living every day, feeding yourself well, going for a little bit of a walk, exercise, obviously there's ways to up the ante, right? It seems to me a lot of women are not ready to up the ante. So let's just, because this is such a major shift, right? A shift from what they were doing. So they're still struggling to get this under wraps. And that's important, to get the mindset right. The rest is easy, right? Once you have this mindset struggle where you're no longer battling with yourself, you're no longer fighting, hating your body, you're no longer shaming yourself and picking on your body, you're no longer thinking about your weight all the time, weighing yourself all the time, that energy can go somewhere else, right? That energy we're going to save, because it won't be put into the negative, it'll be put into action, put into the positive side of what you're going to do. Not looking backwards, not thinking, oh, I should have been a size 12 or I shouldn't have eaten that. All that energy is negative, going the wrong direction. We need it to go forward. We need it to go into planning, into creating actions that make sense for you, planning your food. There's more to do, and there's more like I said, we can up the ante on everything once we get you out of this energy draining, soul crushing mode, right? It's a mode, and we're switching you out of that mode. You don't need that anymore, right? You're going forward with a different approach, different mindset. You won't have that going on, and you will feel better. You'll feel more at peace, and you'll feel calmer. There's a lot of things that that are just intangible that I can't explain to you. But once you don't put your energy into being mean to yourself and constantly monitoring and valuing the wrong things, you're going to feel amazing, because that energy isn't going to be leaking out in a negative way. It's going to be shining out forward, like going forward. It's going to be bursting out in the right direction, right? So, and like there's lots of more teachings around being in the now and not, going backwards and all that kind of stuff. But know that negative thinking is just a pattern. It's a default that you've got going on. And it might take 4 or 5 goes at this before you're not going back, or maybe it's taking longer to go back to that default. So it's not like it's always going to go away at the start, right? It might take, like I said, this is probably where you feel like you're falling off the wagon. You go backwards, right? And that's okay, because you may not have gone backwards as far. You're going to go, or as quickly. You might go backwards. It might take a month to feel like that, or it might take 2 weeks to feel like that. So it gets lesser and lesser. You'll feel better, and that won't happen as much. And on the tough days, you'll have skills. You'll have skills to deal with the tough days. You'll have strategies to deal with the tough days. So that's what we do, like more in the transformational space. But for now, like I said, jump in that challenge at $7. I'm pretty much leaving that ongoing. People can jump into that and go through the materials, go through the videos anytime they want, really. So I think that will help you a lot. Like I said, it goes into a lot of detail. And it'll bring up a few things. It'll bring up resistance. It'll bring up your old beliefs that you probably don't want to challenge, but that's what we're doing here. We're challenging old beliefs. We're challenging old ways. We're challenging old silly rules, right? So be prepared to be uncomfortable for a little while until you can push through that. And like I said, it might take 3 or 4 goes, but if you're in there, you can stay in there and go through it as many times as you like. So, because I'll be taking that down in a little while, but I might just leave it up for people that have paid, obviously, and rerun it again for new people, and they can just keep joining it. I don't know, I'm thinking about that. Anyway, let me know what you think about all those things, what sort of mindset shifts you think you need to make, or you think resonated the most with you at the moment. They're all important, right? They're completely changing your mindset, completely changing your view on the rules, and taking them away, pretty much. So we want to trust your instincts, your gut. We want to trust you, right? You want to trust you again. And you want to enjoy food. So that was the training. I hope that was helpful. Let me know if you want to link to the challenge and go into that and go through that in a lot more detail, because there's a lot more in there. And yeah, I look forward to, the other option, I suppose, you can always jump on a strategy call. Like a 60-minute strategy call is normally 97, but I've got, for you guys, it's 47. So if you want to jump in there at 50% off and have a 60-minute session with me, like a proper strategy session, we can do that. There's lots of other ways I can help as well, like more, like I said, more VIP style. But yeah, have a chat to me if anything resonated with you on this training. Okay, see you guys. Bye.